Hi guys, it's Laura. I'm back. I thought I would show you today how I make my crusty French bread. I was requested to make it for dinner tonight since we're all in and we're cooking and we're sheltering in place, so here we go. It's really easy. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not hard to do. It's kind of like my yogurt recipe. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not difficult. You can do it. So to start with, I have all-purpose flour. This is just an organic all-purpose flour that I get at our local Costco. So you can use whatever, all-purpose flour that you like, or if you have a bread flour that you like, I'm sure that would work really nicely too. You're going to need 3 cups of that. You're also going to need yeast. I use about a teaspoon of yeast, and I just use the Fleischmann's Instant Rise in the bottle. You can find it at any local store. I got this at our local Safeway, so easy peasy. You need salt. You're going to use about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of salt, depending on your taste. This is a coarse ground salt that I got in Mexico from Colima. It's a sea salt. I just happen to use it because I have a lot of it, so I figure, hey, why not? I'll use it. But you can use whatever salt you like. That's fine. And then we need a cup and a half of warm water. I just get the really warm water out of my tap, and that seems to be the perfect temperature, and that works really well. So let's get started. And again, of course, I've already washed my hands and everything, so I'm not going to put you through watching me do that. We're just going to get started with making the dough. So I'm going to take 3 cups of my flour, and I don't measure it super precisely. I'm not really that kind of a cook for most things. I just kind of shake it off till the cup is full, and that's my cup of flour. So there's 2, and here's 3. So we've got our flour in there, and then I'm going to add my yeast. So I'm going to do like a teaspoon of the yeast. And you can see this is super easy, really easy peasy. And then I'm going to do a teaspoon of my salt. So now I'm just going to stir that all together just so it's mixed up. And then I'm going to pour my water in till it makes a nice dough. I'm not going to pour all the water in at first, just in case it's a little too much. I don't want the dough to be too sticky. I want it to come together and make a nice ball. And you can always add more. It's hard to take out. I don't want to have to add a bunch more flour if it's too wet. So I always start out with a little less on the water, and then I can put more in, which it does need more. So I'm going to put more in. And it's coming together. Alrighty, so I hope you can see my dough came together. It's a little bit sticky, but not like super goopy and gloppy. So this is a nice consistency. It kind of pulled away from the edge of the bowl. So that's like what you want. So now the big thing is I need to let this rise, and I want to do that in a warm place. Unfortunately, my house is kind of big and it costs a lot to heat it. So we don't turn our heater up really high. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use my Instant Pot again. I tell you, if you don't have one, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And no, I don't get any money from the people that make the Instant Pots. I didn't get a free Instant Pot. It just happens to be something that I find to be really, really handy. I use it for a lot of things. You can do a lot more than just cooking roasts or things like that. I use it to rise my bread. I make my yogurt. You can make hard-boiled eggs. You can cook beans. I mean, it's pretty much endless what you can do. And what I've done is I've used a separate bowl that I'm going to put into the bowl in my Instant Pot just so I don't get that bowl all gunky. It'll make it easier for the cleanup at the end. So I'm just going to put this into my Instant Pot. There's my bowl inside the Instant Pot. And I am just going to turn it on to my yogurt function because that's a nice, slow, warm temperature. And I'm going to do this for an hour and a half. So I'm just going to adjust my time. And so at this point, I'm just going to put the lid on and I'm going to let it go for an hour and a half, and then we'll do the next step. Okay, so guys, it's in my Instant Pot. It's ready to go. At this point, I'm just going to let it sit and we just have to wait. Like I said, this isn't really hard, but it takes a little bit of time. I want to make sure that I tell you, you are not doing this on a pressure function. You're doing without pressure. You're going to vent your Instant Pot if you use that to make the bread rise. You can also use a crock pot. You can use a really low warm oven. If your house is warm, you can put it out on your counter. So whatever you feel that'll work for you, you can do that. That'll work. Alrighty, my Instant Pot is beeped that it's done. So my next step is to take the dough out of the Instant Pot, and I'm gonna just put a little flour down on a cutting board just to set it out on, and I'm gonna form it into just a nice little ball. You don't have to do a major knead to this. It's not a kneaded dough, but it just helps to have a little bit of flour on the board to make a nice dough ball. So here's my dough. I'm just going to turn it out onto the board with some flour. Just going to sprinkle a little on top so it helps keep it from sticking to my hands totally. I'm just gently forming it together, just making it into a ball. And I'm just going to shake off some of this extra dough or extra flour, and I'm just making it into a nice ball. And I'm just going to set that on my board for the moment. I'm going to clean out my bowl that I used. I'm going to put it back in there with a little bit of parchment paper this time so I can transfer it to the oven. And I'm also going to turn on my oven to 500 degrees, and I've got a nice Dutch oven here that I'm going to put in to heat up while my dough rises for another half hour. Alrighty, so my Instant Pot has beeped. It's done. The dough got to rise for another 30 minutes, and my cast iron Dutch oven has been in my oven heating up at 500 degrees. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my oven down to 450 degrees, and I'm going to take my dough out of the Instant Pot and put it in that Dutch oven with the lid on for about 20 minutes. You want to kind of keep an eye on it and make sure that it's not burning. And you can see I just put parchment in the bowl. It makes it easier for me to lift this out of here and put it into the oven for it to bake. And be really, really careful because this is screaming hot. It's been in at 500 degrees. Okay, so that's in. The lid is on. And I'm going to turn it down to 450. And I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. Alrighty, now we just wait. Alrighty, my timer just went off, so I am going to reduce my temperature to 425, and I'm going to take the lid off of my Dutch oven. I'm then going to let it go for another maybe 15 minutes. You'll want to keep an eye on it and just make sure that it doesn't get too brown. Hey folks, so here we go. Here is the end result. The bread is done. I'm going to take it out and we're going to enjoy it with our dinner. Here we go. It's out of the oven. It looks incredible and it smells great. Can't wait to dig into it.